Dive into a whirlwind of summer flings, deceit, and mystery with our latest movie recap. Follow Doug, a young man whose summer escapade turns into a thrilling ride of romance and danger as he becomes entangled with Lena, a mysterious woman with a complicated past. From fascinating encounters to chilling twists and turns, this story unfolds in a sleepy beach town where all is not as it seems. Watch as secrets unravel and stakes rise, culminating in a shocking finale. Don't miss out on the captivating journey of betrayal, love, and intrigue. So, the movie kicks off with this deep, sort of philosophical voiceover from a dude reflecting on his youth, right? He's all about how when you're young, you feel like you're invincible, like nothing can touch you. He talks about how everyone warns you about consequences, but during the summer, man, all bets are off. Anything could happen. And for this guy, it really did. Cut to this young guy, Doug, arriving at this vibrant beach town with his folks. They're unloading their car, and you can tell they're here for the summer because his mom's teasing him about bringing way too many books. They've got this place right next to the pier, and there's a hint of adventure in the air. Doug doesn't waste any time. He heads down to the pier and runs into a buddy of his who's already scoping out the scene. His friend fills him in on all the new faces, particularly the ladies, and how this summer is just ripe for the picking. They stroll down to this bar on the pier, right? And there's this band playing, but some dude accidentally yanks the power cord, and the music stops. But get this, Doug just picks up a guitar and starts jamming with them, and the crowd loves it. His friend slaps an apron on him and is like, "Summer's on, bro." When Doug gets back home later, it's all quiet. He screams, but there's no one around. He heads up to his room, and while he's there, he notices some new neighbors through his window. There's this gorgeous woman, Lena, and her husband, Elliot. Doug tries to play it cool, catch her eye, but she heads inside before anything happens. Not one to stay put, Doug grabs his bike and later sees Lena again, fixing her shoes after a sandy walk. He's about to chat her up when he hears laughter from the beach. He takes his friend and they drag a mattress into an old boat shed, open a few cold bottles, and just enjoy the atmosphere. His friend promises him, "Dude, this summer's gonna be epic," and you can just feel that something's about to go down. So, Doug comes back home and finds out the old neighbors have moved out, and his dad's like, "Come meet the new folks next door." Turns out, it's this couple, Elliot and Lena. Elliot's quick to chat Doug up about boats, mentioning that Doug's dad said he's pretty savvy with them. He even offers Doug a gig working on his shiny new boat, saying it pays way better than mowing lawns. The following day, as Elliot's checking out his boat, he spots Lena coming back from a swim, looking like a scene straight out of a movie. Doug's there too, and he can't help but watch Lena as she's drying off and changing. Just then, Elliot pops up, asking about the boat. Doug plays it cool, tells him the damage looks mostly cosmetic. Elliot mentions he might be out of town for a bit, and they hash out the details of Doug's pay, though Elliot jokes he'd prefer to fork out $20 less. Now, here's where it gets spicy. Doug's peeking out his window later and sees Lena changing. Suddenly, Elliot storms into the room and tries to get physical with Lena, forcing Doug to awkwardly look away. The very next day, Elliot's down at the waterfront but gets stopped by this security guard, who's all about checking IDs. Doug sees this, tells Elliot the guard's just doing his job a bit too seriously. Elliot's like, "I prefer it that way." So, they're chatting on Elliot's boat, and Doug's curious how Elliot scored such a plush life. Elliot credits it to having cash and charisma. Just then, Lena walks by, and the next thing you know, Doug hears Lena scream. He rushes over and finds her freaking out over a spider in the car. Classic. Doug plays the hero, squashes the spider, and fixes up the car. But things get super awkward when Lena thanks him, and there's this weird tension. Later, Doug tells his buddy about the whole ordeal, and his friend's like, "Man, watch out for that husband. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy you want to mess with." So, Doug's heading home from work one day when he bumps into Lena chilling on her porch. Turns out, she's locked herself out and needs a bit of help getting back in. She's all hush-hush about it, asking Doug to keep it on the down low because Elliot told her to be more careful or something. Just as it starts to pour, Lena gets this idea. She tells Doug to grab a rock and break the back window to get in. Dude does just that, climbs in and opens the door for her. Once inside, Lena's like, "Hey, why not stay for a drink?" and hands him a cold beer. They start chatting, and she notices Doug's got a cut. She begins tending to it, all seductive-like, assuring him he's not gonna die on her watch. That's when Doug leans in for a kiss, right? But he kinda messes it up, apologizes for the awkward move. Lena just laughs it off, tells him to give it another go, only better this time. Sparks fly, they start kissing again, and next thing you know, clothes are coming off. And well, one thing leads to another. The next morning, they wake up together, and Lena's throwing compliments at Doug about last night. She even asks if that was his first time, and he plays it off like it's his third, all casual. Doug heads home afterward, still grinning about the whole thing. He meets up with his friend who's like, "Dude, you called me last night moaning," playing some strange voice that's definitely not Doug. His friend then tries to hook him up with some other girls, but Doug's just not into it. He's got eyes only for Lena. The next few days are just intense. Doug's working on the boat when Lena shows up, saying Elliot sent her to check on him. They're alone on the boat, she flirts, strips down, and bam, they're at it again. That night, Doug's working the bar and spots Lena and Elliot. His buddy nudges him, pointing out some girls, but Doug's distracted. The very next day, he sees Elliot at a store, and Lena's there too. They sneak out the back, hook up again, but then Elliot starts heading their way. They freeze, Lena gives Doug a quick kiss, and slips back to Elliot like nothing happened. Talk about living on the edge, right? After this disturbing interaction, Doug goes to the hospital to confront Lena. He's all like, "You have to contact the police," but she's not having it. Instead, they just head back to her place, trying to keep things under wraps. Next thing you know, Lena contacts him while sunbathing on the beach, and she's like, "Come over." Doug heads over, and yep, they end up hooking up again, right there on a boat. While they're chilling, Lena spills some serious beans about her husband's messy past with his first wife, who's still tangled up in court battles. Meanwhile, Doug's buddies start getting nosy, hinting they know he's seeing someone, but Doug just brushes off their suspicions. Things take a wild turn when Doug gets home and finds out Elliot is back in town. Lena dials his number in a panic, and he finds her right behind him, who tells him in a frenzy that she and Elliot had a huge fight, and she accidentally hit him over the head with something. Turns out, Elliot's dead. Lena's freaking out, asking Doug what on earth they should do. Trying to keep a level head, Doug tells her they'll sort it out, and to act natural. He heads to work at the bar, tries to keep things normal, but then Lena shows up at his place, meeting his parents in the most awkward way possible. Later, he sneaks over to Lena's, where she's all apologetic and worried. Doug, trying to think on his feet, suggests they make it look like an accident, but Lena's not convinced that'll work. So, Doug cooks up this new plan to move Elliot's body to his boat, telling Lena to play it cool and just tell the cops they had a big fight and Elliot took off. As he is about to depart with the body, a guard nearly blows his cover, mistaking him for Mr. Harper. Quick on his feet, Doug pretends he's Elliot and just sails off. Come morning, the cops are at Lena's door, thinking they're investigating an accident. Doug, meanwhile, has turned his full attention to MacGyver. He uses the beam to make up a head injury, then sets fire to the boat with Elliot's body inside to make it look like a tragic accident. He returns to his routine, serving up drinks to oblivious cops chatting about the very incident he's entangled in. It's like something out of a crime thriller, man. Alright. So after all that chaos, this woman drives into town, and it's clear she means business. She meets with the cops and lays it all out. She's representing the Law Trust, and they're taking a close look into the situation because there's a big chunk of money that was supposed to go to Elliot, but now it's heading Lena's way. They're sniffing around for any signs of foul play. This woman keeps digging, asking Lena pointed questions about what exactly went down, and if there was any romantic drama on the side. Lena, keeping her cool, denies having any affairs, but clearly, she's getting annoyed with all these accusations flying around. Meanwhile, the cops are piecing together their own puzzle. Even the waterfront guard chimes in, saying he might have spotted a suspect that night. The plot thickens, right? They start grilling Doug's dad, trying to connect the dots. Doug's there too, overhearing things, and he throws in his 2 cents. Maybe he saw Elliot that night, or maybe it was someone else, he muses. Then, the agent from before comes back to scour the crime scene again. She finds the broken window. The very one Doug accidentally smashed the first night he met Lena. The cops haul in Doug's buddy, who lets slip that Doug might be involved with someone. Doug hears this and just loses it, storming out in a rage. The agent shows up at Doug's doorstep later that evening. She's there to follow up, pressing for more details, insisting they need to speak with Doug formally. The situation's getting really heated, and Doug's trying to reach Lena for some backup. But just as he's about to get through, his parents come back, and everything is interrupted. Feeling cornered, Doug heads to the police station where he's bombarded with more questions, this time about Elliot's relationship with Lena. So, things really heat up when the agent pushes Doug hard for details at the station. But here comes Doug's mom, right? She's having none of it. She steps right up and tells the agent off, saying she's not going to let her frame Doug. Amidst all this drama, Lena sends Doug a cryptic message to meet up at the boat shed. When they meet, she drops another bombshell. They need to stay apart for a while. After that heavy goodbye, Doug heads home only to find the investigator waiting for him again, this time with a kit for fingerprints and a swab for his DNA. They haul him off in a car, but Doug's clammed up, not giving them anything. Back at home, Doug spills everything to his friend and parents, trying to make sense of it all. Meanwhile, the cops are piecing together their case and actually find a match for the blood sample the agent provided. It's not easy for Doug, and Gardner Harper, the very man who could support Doug's story about being with Lena, turns up dead before he could even talk to the police. In a desperate move, Doug makes a break for it. He heads to the watershed to confront Lena, but things go south fast. Lena starts tearing at her clothes and screaming, making it look like Doug's attacking her. The cops swoop in and arrest him, but he pleads with them, insisting he needs to prove his innocence. Surprisingly, one of the cops believes him enough to let him slip away. Doug races to Lena's motel, determined to find her cell phone, which he believes holds all the answers. But just as he's about to grab the phone, Lena and the agent walk in. That's when it hits him. The two women have matching tattoos. It dawns on Doug that the agent has been Lena's lover and accomplice all along. But here's the twist. As Lena and her lover are about to leave him to take the fall, Lena makes a last-minute decision to leave the cell phone with Doug. It's packed with evidence that could clear his name, all after they've secured Elliot's money. The women take off in a plane, leaving Doug with the phone. In the end, Doug's left to pick up the pieces. He narrates how he ended up serving a short stint in prison on lesser charges, reflecting on the whole wild ride. As for Lena and her lover, they're still out there, on the run, leaving Doug to wonder if he'd ever go through such madness again. As we close the curtain on Careful What You Wish For, we're left with a stark reminder of how a seemingly ideal summer can spiral into a vortex of manipulation and murder. This film intricately portrays how youthful desires and reckless decisions can lead to drastic consequences. Doug's entanglement with Lena, a figure shrouded in mystery and danger, draws us into a narrative rife with suspense and moral quandaries. If you found this blend of passion and peril as gripping as we did, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating movie breakdowns. Now, I appeal to you viewers. Do you think Doug was influenced by circumstances, or did his choices lead to inevitable disaster? Could he have altered his fate, or was the outcome sealed from the moment he chose to engage with Lena? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss the complexities of choice and consequence in Careful What You Wish For.